Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Six Figure Systems podcast. Today, this podcast is centered around selling, especially as we enter into a new year. And we are going to talk about a specific piece of my consultation conversion blueprint, which is when to increase your prices. We are going to be talking about first and foremost, the misconceptions a lot of people have, and I'll be sharing about my journey with raising my prices. Then we're going to get into really what I would recommend you doing before you raise your prices, before you get on those sales calls, and what you can start doing now if you're contemplating raising your prices. And then last but not least, we're going to talk about how you can maintain that confidence in your prices as you continue to sell your program, because your brain is going to want to revert back to whatever you used to sell, and it's going to want to think about that unless you consciously and intentionally choose to redirect your brain. So, first and foremost, what we're going to be doing is I want to share with you some misconceptions about raising your prices. So, a lot of people think that they should raise their prices every year. I hear people say that they should raise their prices if they get a certification. I hear people talk about raising their prices to meet their goals. That is the number one thing I hear is like, oh, in order to make six figures, I need to charge 5K. And they do not feel confidence in it. And these are problems because getting certified doesn't mean that you are automatically, your coaching is more valuable to the people in your audience. So you really need to learn how to communicate that. The second reason that changing your prices just because another year goes by is a misconception is because you're not, again, thinking about the value of your coaching as a whole. You're not thinking about what you're doing is worth more money because it's going to create a result for your clients. So you need to be thinking about your clients and whether they would value your coaching at that price. And if you're communicating your coaching and conveying the value of it at that price before you change your prices. So just because you get certified and another year goes by that you run your business does not mean that you should raise your prices. And the third and biggest misconception I have heard people say is that, ooh, in order to reach my goals, in order to make six figures, I need to increase my pricing. And the reason you're hearing all these things now is those decisions are not based on your client. They aren't based on what your value as a coach is for them. And whenever you think about changing something within your business and you're focusing on yourself, a lot of times what happens is you will go into what I see happen for most people who make the decision to raise their prices from those misconceptions is they will see not only a dip in sales, but they could also see them going through like a consultation route. I have seen people that have made less, they created a great offer. They had a bunch of clients, they increased their prices, they lost the renewals that they had. And I've also seen people in this situation when they're again thinking about themselves, not conveying that change to the clients and or potential clients, what happens is I've had people come into my coaching business and they're like, okay, I did great. And I made like not only like a minor dip, not only like a couple of months without a consult, but go through an entire year with a deficit. Like literally like make half of what they made the year before because they heard somewhere to charge X for their coaching and they took that advice and it just ran with it. And I think one of the reasons why I haven't created a deficit within my coaching business is because I was really mindful about how and when I decided to raise my pricing. So I'm going to share with you really quickly when and why I decided to raise my pricing. And I think it'll be really helpful for you as well. And then I'm also going to teach you what I did in between those periods where I hadn't increased my price yet, but I knew I was going to. And I'm going to give you the why you need to start selling yourself on those prices now. And then I'm also going to share with you those same prompts that you can use to create longevity and make sure that you are still confident in those prices, even if you do a consult later. So when I was first starting my coaching business, I started my coaching business in the fall of 2020. Now, before, I was very scared to charge for coaching. I had only charged for tutoring previously, and that was like $60 an hour. So I was really, really nervous to start charging for my coaching. I also decided to start coaching with a niche. I would not recommend that to most people unless you feel totally sold that this is what you're going to do. And a niche is just a subset or population of people that you want to help. For instance, when I first started my coaching business, I was like, I was a teacher, so I'm going to coach children. And that, my friends, was not the best thing for me to do at the beginning of my business because even though I had coached successfully children over the summer, I was focusing mainly on academics. So when I was teaching them, we were talking about reading, even at a first grade level, it's amazing. I would realize that the kids who were struggling, there was more of a mental struggle and a self-concept struggle that they were struggling with, not necessarily a foundational struggle. For instance, I would have students that would read, you bring the best and get stuck into our lives. And they would read the sentence and they wouldn't know the word people and they would just shut down. And they would think that I am not smart because I don't know this word. And that was the main coaching I did. I was like, okay, how can we sm smart people aren't people who know every word. Smart people use context clues. Let's figure out it's like, and again, people who are smart using person first language, but I would be like, okay, here's how we can do this. Here, what are you thinking when you mess up a word? How can we change your thoughts about it? And I was able to coach these children really successfully. So I thought I could do the same. Again, it was the pandemic, so people were starting virtual school. I was teaching virtual first grade. And what I learned is that tutoring was not a conflict of interest between me and the state. However, coaching and charging like $100 a session would be something that would be a conflict of interest. And I couldn't coach children on academics. So I would coach children on their lives. And that's kind of like what I started as because I couldn't be like a personal tutor. Like I wasn't trying to homeschool these kids. So it was really confusing at the beginning. And I actually started working with three former students and they'd be like, Miss Wang, look at my cat. And I'm like, well, tell me about your struggles. And they were like, eh. And I know that there are probably people out there that listen to this and actually coach children very successfully. Like, so glad that you're doing that. I would like to get coaching into schools. However, my coaching business did not do well at the beginning when I was coaching children on their lives. So I started posting about it online and I got 17 consults and I was charging at the time $400 a month or 4K for 10 months. I made the decision on my pricing and my timeline literally based on the fact that I knew that like based on what my business coach had told me, I couldn't charge less than $100 a session. So I was like, fine, I'm gonna do $100 a session and I'm going to do 10 months because it's a 10-month school year. And so that was initially how I decided my timeline and my pricing was literally just based on that. And then what happened is I posted about it on social media, and some of my friends who I had known from college, from high school, even just like people I knew were referring me to other people. And what happened is I went and switched my niche. And I knew that I could get results for children, and that's why I was willing to charge $400. But I realized that the things that my clients who were adults were struggling with were very valuable problems to solve. For instance, getting a promotion, going through a divorce, deciding to move cities, changing careers, going into being a mother. Those were some of the things that I started working with people. And I realized that those were big problems that they had. And when I was able to articulate the solution for them, not very well at the beginning, by the way, but I was able to see that this was so, so valuable if they worked with me. I decided after 2 months of charging 400 for 10 months, I knew the value for my future clients was so much more. So I decided to charge 600. I made a huge jump and I jumped from 400 a month to 600 a month for 10 months or 6K. And when I was doing that, I decided to do that because I knew that it was valuable for the clients and I knew I could articulate that well on a consult. And then I went an entire year and did not increase my prices. I actually joined a coaching mastermind, and I was the lowest charging coach by far in the whole program. And I was like, yep, I feel good with this. I'm able to charge people like, and I felt really good about it. And within that program, I realized that the way that I was coaching people when I was in the mastermind and the results that my clients were getting were really, really amazing. And I realized that within just like the existence of me working with my clients, there wasn't a single client who finished working with me and made less than a 10K pay raise. So I had gotten clients like, again, or they completely switched careers. So like one of my clients moved to New York City, and actually we're going to get together this evening. One of my first clients is still a dear friend of mine, and she got an amazing role. She decided to become an actress full time and just got her first 4 years later. She got her first role on a Broadway touring company. So things might take a little bit, but still is a huge success for her. I also had clients that got out of marriages. I had clients that healed their marriages. There were such big things. But for my clients that I was working with, I realized that within their careers, if I was working with them specifically on something career related, I was able to talk with them in a way that built their confidence, that helped them to manage their stress better. And they were able to have conversations with superiors that had really the ability to give them raises. So none of my clients got less than a 10K pay raise. They either got a promotion, they got a bonus. I had a client go from making 80 to 120 because we literally just like looked at comps for oh my goodness, what was her role in the company? Yeah, but it was also that should probably be anonymous, but she literally went from making 80K to 120K within, I think it was 3 months, because we advocated for her to be making what other people in her role were making. So things could happen really quickly. I was able to realize that my coaching was pretty dang good, and I was getting good results for people, like really good results for my life coaching clients. So after that first full year where I was at 600 for 10 months, I decided then to shift my coaching to 6K for 6 months. Then quickly after that, I changed it. It was like 2 months later, I actually decided to go up to 7,500 for 6 months. And I was thinking about my clients the whole time as I was doing that. I was like, I'm pretty sure within 6 months, I can get them ahead in their lives enough that they would value that at 6K. And I could probably get them a raise. Like most of them were getting raises at like 2 and 3 months in. So I was like, I'm pretty sure if I work with them for a full 6 months, we can get this raise. So what I did is the reason why I changed it from 6,500 to 7,500, 6,000 to 7,500 is that it was 1,000 a month to 1,250 a month. And I realized that my coaching was really, really getting them results that were valued at over $1,000 a month. And so it just made sense for them to do that. And then I took a full other year, even though I had my group going at 7,500. And the reason why I actually charged 7,500 instead of 6K is my group was 2,500 at the time because I was doing 5 months for the group. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, one-on-one with me makes way more sense for people than doing a group. Like it was a really good offer at the time. And so I wanted to make sure that the comps were consistent. So before I raised my prices for the group, which I actually did just at the beginning of this year, my group was at 2,500 for 5 months, and then I made it a 6 month mastermind. So I did 3,000 for 6 months for the first up until my fourth round of the mastermind, which started back in 20 really at the end of 2023, because this is the eighth round of the mastermind. Yeah. So within the mastermind, I'm sorry I'm going on a bit of a tangent, but I want you to hear why I did it. Is I knew that I was going to raise my price for my mastermind up to 5K. So I knew that if I had a one-on-one offer that was 7,500 and a group that's 5K, I knew that I needed to differentiate myself. I also knew that for my clients, now I had switched my niche to now coaching business owners. I knew that they needed to sell a 5-figure offer. I knew that I wanted to be able to tell them, hey, I have sold a five-figure offer to one-on-one clients, and I can teach you how to do that too. So I spent the entire year in 2023 really selling myself that 75, going from 7,500 to 12K, 2K a month was really worthwhile. And we're going to talk about what it means to sell yourself. But I did that for an entire year before I raised my prices. Not because I was thinking about I wasn't being like, oh, I'm just going to charge a five-figure offer right out the gate. I'm not doing this because it's going to help me fit my goals, not because I got certified, not because I am, what was the third misconception? Not just because another year went by. I knew it was the best choice for them. I knew that my coaching was worth it. And I knew that my offer was definitely going to make them 12K and then and more for the lifetime of their business. So that's how I decided to raise my prices. And then I did 12K for one-on-one and 5K for group. And now I'm just 5K for my group. So for you, I want you to think about, how are you making the decision to raise your prices? Are you making the decision from service, or are you making the decision focusing on what your needs are? I would highly recommend meeting those needs yourself and then focus on serving your clients. But there are going to be times when it is appropriate to raise your prices. And what I've seen is, I see people say, you know what, I like literally like within a call, they'll be like, ah, I feel like my coaching is worth this. So I'm just going to change it right away. Like, it's like, I'm going to go from charging 600 a month to 1,000 a month. I feel like it kind of makes sense. And they don't really think about why it makes sense for them to sell their offer at $1,000 a month, let's say. And what happens is, that's when I see the deficit. That's when I see the go down drastically for an entire year. They aren't even getting consults because they're not really putting themselves out there because they don't want to hear the rejection. So what I have them do is, before they raise their prices, they decide way before, and I want to encourage this for you as well. And I want you to do what I would consider step two, is I want you to sell yourself on your new offer. So a lot of people will be like, great, Megs, that sounds awesome. What the heck do you mean by selling yourself? Like, what, we're not talking about selling you, because your worth and your value is, of course, like unlimited. There is no way I could put a price on you. But I heard that word, selling yourself, a lot. I was like, oh, what does it mean? What does it actually mean to sell yourself? And selling yourself on a new price just means that you are building belief, building neural pathways that create confidence for you to show up confidently and really fully believe that this is the best price for them, and the best price for your business, and the best price for you. So here's how I sold myself. Every single day, I knew that there was research that said for every one negative thought, it takes five positive thoughts to replace it. In my brain, if I would give it the freedom to, it would go all day about reasons. Let's say, for instance, going from 7,500 to 12K, my brain would give me reasons all day as to why that's not a good idea. And before I do that, I don't even want to give reasons for reasons why my coaching is not worth that price. I want to focus fully on believing my new price. So here's how I would do it. I would, every single day before I raise my prices. So all of 2023, before I raised my prices, I think in the winter of, I actually know I changed my prices back in the summer of 2023. And then I changed the price for my group in winter because I knew it was worth, I'm like, it's 5K to make six figures. Let's go. Like, again, no brainer, right? But the reason why it was a no brainer for me, and why I was able to articulate that so easily, was because I spent every day telling myself all the reasons why it's a good idea for them and why it's a good idea for me. That's what it means to sell yourself. So if you ever hear me mention that on the podcast again, selling yourself is building belief, building new thoughts that create confidence for you to sell your offer well to your audience. So for first and foremost, I want you to first and foremost think about why your coaching is worth this new price. Now, I don't want you to just say one sentence. Knowing that it takes 5 positive thoughts to replace every negative thought, I want you to give me 5 reasons every day and try and come up with as many different reasons as possible as to why your coaching is worth the new price. So, for instance, I did this with one of my clients, and they were like, this will transform their entire life. And immediately I was like, no, that is coach speak. I'm literally going to do the next podcast all about like taking out coach speak. And because you're an expert, you've got great language, transform your life, not compelling. That is not something that is going to make people excited to pay you more money, but you will have more time. I was like, okay, so elaborate on that. If your brain is like, it'll change your whole life, why? What are the actual things that change in their life? Okay. And I'm being kind of hard on you in a joking way because I really do think this is so important that we don't say things like transform your life. Again, it's going to be a whole podcast. I have 100 words that you're going to take out of your vocabulary and stop using in your marketing and stop using in your conversations. But I want, instead of transform your whole life, you will have more time. And for her, when she was thinking about raising her prices to 1,000 a month, she was like, people would pay $1,000 more a month to have 5 extra hours in their week. I know that that's true because the things that they could do with those 5 hours would compound exponentially. So that is how you sell yourself. You're like, they would have more time. They could get back 5 extra hours in their week. That is worth 1,000 more a month. So you see how you're creating a compelling pitch for yourself before you tell anybody else of why your coaching is worth more. The other thing is they will increase when she was saying why her coaching is worth more, they will increase their productivity. So she knows that that not only is a compelling argument with her client, but that could also be a compelling argument for a spouse. So they could be really thinking about, okay, like, is this a worthwhile investment for our family? We are most likely going to have to take money from savings and or potentially even money that was allotted for something else. But this productivity and the level of procrastination is enough of a problem that we would spend $1,000 more a month to solve this problem. Do you see how I'm making it compelling for them? And then when you get on the call, you're like, yeah, like this is of course a no-brainer. And that's why when I'm teaching my clients the consult conversion blueprint, this is why it works because they know that the aspects that they're selling their clients on, like the back of their hand. The other thing is you're going to have more energy. So when we're thinking about this client, to have more energy, to not be the exhausted person in the carpool lane, to be able to have better moments with their children, to be able to be more focused at work. They could literally make more money if they were to start coaching with her. And that's what she realized when she was selling herself on this. She was also like, you'll be more connected, loving, and present. You can't get this time back. They are going to lose out on memories. How much would people be willing to pay for that? They are also they're going to increase their physical health. A lot of times we realize that people are spending because they're spending from emotions. So they might be spending money on things that are not going to create longevity, like, oh, I need this for the house because I'm actually unhappy at home. I need to buy this dress so that I look pretty for my partner because our relationship isn't that good. I need to spend money on this so that my kids will be happy instead of being frustrated with them all the time. And then she was like, yeah, they're going to spend less and they're going to be able to actually create, especially with their confidence, with their physical health. She was like, they're going to look better because they work with me. So it really is selling you on the idea that your coaching is worth more before she ever signs another client. Okay. Then I also want you to think about why working with you for X amount of time will create results that are compelling enough to charge your new price. So the second question I would ask myself is like, why is my program worth this much? So first and foremost, I knew my coaching was transformative, but why is working with me, what kind of results will they create in their life that'll make it worth it? And so these were some of the things that they were talking about when we were talking about like why they would why raising their prices worth the $1,000 a month for their new clients, and they will lose weight. She was like, they will be willing to pay $1,000 a month for that. They will boost their confidence. They'll show up at work better. Maybe they'll get that promotion, that raise, that transition in their career. But that is going to be a huge difference maker. They'll be able to set boundaries so they won't be taking calls on Christmas Eve. They're going to develop a better relationship with themselves. And I was like, nope, we're not using that word. I was like, elaborate. So what they said is that they're going to be able to be a better mom. They're going to be able to be a better wife. They're going to be able to be a better woman in society because they invested in themselves. They're also going to make space in the day for things they put off for decades. So that makes a really compelling argument for as to why the coaching is worth more. And so I want you to do the same thing. Why doing your program for X amount of time is worth the amount of money. And again, that's what I call selling yourself. You're building new belief that you can convey with confidence for your new clients. The other thing and the last thing that I want you to build belief on is I want you to sell yourself that there are not only like 5 people who are interested in paying you on this, why there are hundreds of people who would be willing to pay your new price. So I want you to sell your brain that there are a bunch of people that want this. So what happens is there are thousands, and what this client does, she was like, there are thousands of people who are tired of being tired and would be willing to pay $1,000 a month, aka or like 4K for 4 months, who are just tired of being tired. They would be willing because they'll show up better as a wife, mother, and human, that they're just sick and tired of this and they'd be willing to pay for this. There are thousands and hundreds of people, why there are hundreds of people who want your offer at this new price that want to make better decisions. They want to make decisions with ease and certainty. And I can offer that after working with me for 4 months. And there are hundreds of women who want to be more decisive. There are hundreds of women who want to be less overwhelmed and resentful, and they're willing to pay $1,000 a month to be less overwhelmed and resentful because they don't want to, again, look back on their life and be like, man, I was a mean mom. I don't want to feel like that. I want to know I was a good mom and not have mom guilt. I'd be willing to pay $1,000 a month for that. And there are hundreds of women that would be willing to pay $1,000 a month for that. They are going to get tools for life. So instead of going back to baseline, after they work with you, it's not like they're going to need help with their stress management. They're going to be able to not only learn the tools on the coaching call, but they're going to implement it enough that they have those tools for life. So they'll know how to manage their stress for life. That is worth $1,000 a month for this investment. They want to be able to recover quickly. So instead of having something bad happen in their life, whether it's something that they could control or something outside of their control, like a death in the family, they will actually be able to recover quickly and they aren't going to be dwelling as much in those not so great moments in life. They're going to be able to process it and move forward. And so these kind of things are, again, things that make it worth it. And that client is now selling herself on those things every single day. I also would offer like a next level of that and find 5 places where they might be today. So the next thing that you want to sell yourself on, because your brain's going to be like, okay, sure, I can imagine that there are hundreds of people that might want this offer, but where? And then you could be like on social media, in communities of friends and family, in religious communities, in a networking group, in a corporate wellness space, as a PTA. I don't know where they are, but I'm going to list all the places and start to find new reasons every day, reasons where these hundreds of people are that you could actually reach out to. So that's what this client did. And I felt like it was just like, I'm like, we're doing a whole podcast on it. I'm like, this is so important because so many people raise their prices at inappropriate times. And this is what you want to do is before you do that, you want to sell yourself on this new price. You want to be really sold on it for you. And then what you want to do, what I recommend to this client is work on that every day and sign at least like 3 to 5 clients at her current price. So that's what I would recommend to you too. Not only do you do this work one day, one time, and then you forget about it, I want you to consistently do this work enough. And I want the next clients that you sign the next 3 to 5 clients that you sign, I want you to sell that offer like it's your new price. I'm not saying sell them at your new price. Hear me out. But the next five, when I was selling my offer at 7,500 and I knew I was raising my prices, which I didn't tell them I would, that's not a sales technique. I hate that. I'm like, oh, it's like, well, we're raising our prices soon, so you should get in. You know who you get in? Scarce people. You don't want to sell people with a sale ever. That just goes throughout anything. I never discount my coaching prices. I always sell with a bonus. So I never ever give a discount. I never sell with a sale because sales sells the people you sell with a sale oftentimes are going to be people who are a little bit scarce and are not usually the best client. And I've never done that. Never sold my coaching for a sale ever. Never given a month of additional coaching. I would always give them a bonus outside of my coaching because I know my coaching is valued at a certain price. But when I was selling, let's say I was deciding I was going to change my price from 7,500 to 12,000, what I did is I would sell myself every single day. And then the next three consults that I had, I was like, this offer is 7,500 because of all of these amazing reasons that I'm like, yeah, this is a no-brainer. Like it just makes sense. And I was able to really think about them on the consult. I was thinking about the potential client that I was interfacing with. And I was like, I know this is a good investment for you because I've just spent weeks selling myself on all the reasons why it's going to be a really good investment for you. And I knew internally, again, never ever communicated this to a single person, but I knew that my prices were going to be 12K. And I knew that the coaching I was offering was worth 12K before I raised my price, before I charged it, because then I was able to sell it. And I'm like, yeah, of course, this is worth 7,500. I'm like, you get this, you get this, you get this. It really is a no-brainer. And it helped me show up really confidently for those next calls. And then I was able to just build more confidence, create a like really had more cash on hand. So that when I raised my price for 12,000, guess what happened? Anytime I raised my prices, guess what? That next console bought. Because I had pretty much already felt like I was selling it at 12K for the past like month or two before I decided to raise my prices. And actually, for me, I was so nervous to charge five figures. I spent a whole year. I was like, the whole entire year, I just was selling myself why my author's offer is worth five figures, the results that I had gotten my clients that were worth five figures. I really took a long, hard time really selling myself that it was worth it before ever, because for me, I want to feel genuine, certain. I want to feel like this is genuinely the best offer for them. I do not want to feel like there's any hesitation. I would feel horrible if somebody paid me $12,000 and they didn't feel like they got what they wanted out of it. I would feel devastated. Like it's more so to protect me. I was like, yeah, I could never ever sell something that I didn't fully believe in. I was like, that just isn't how I work. I want to make it feel energetically and just like in general, like they get so much more than I am receiving. I always want to feel like my clients are receiving so much. They're going to be able to use these things for a lifetime. I'm like, this is worth it. Again, now I'm like 5K currently my offer. And again, who knows? I might be doing some selling myself on my offer and right now. But for me, I'm knowing that where my business is going. And I'm like 5K to make 100K. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, this just makes sense. So I want you to use that. And after you get that first sale, the mistake I made is I was like, I stopped selling myself on the price and really like selling myself. And there was a time when I did that like 6K for 6 months and then I switched it to 7,500 that I wasn't really sold on the 7,500 that I literally even because I just stopped doing the thought work. I stopped doing my journaling every morning and I didn't think of why my coaching is worth 7,500, but I had spent an entire year thinking about 6K that I literally on a consult said 6K after I charged another client 7,500. So then I was like, oh, okay. So what you want to do is after you get that first sale, after you increase your prices, you still have to do this thought work every day because your brain is going to want to revert back to your old price. And you still need to find evidence, even if it's a minute difference, even if it's, again, like 6K, 7,500, $250 a month is not that much more. But I literally like, it wasn't ingrained in my being that it was worth that much. And so I forgot. So you can do that same work. And one of the ways that, like, again, after you do the intense work of like finding 5 reasons it's worth that enough, you're going to start to know the things that you find valuable about your offer and things that you define as selling points that you're going to be able to communicate on your consults. And what I did and what I would recommend for you is that then maybe after that, after you feel really, really sold and there are no more internal objections that like, oh my God, this is too much. Do we think that there are going to be enough people to charge it? What I would do is I would switch it to be like, why my coaching is worth 12K and just like do that every day. Once I felt like there were no real internal objections anymore and I flushed all of those out, I still did that work to be like, it's worth 12K for 6 months. I'm worth 2K a month. Here's why. And I just still did that just to make sure my brain was still on board. So again, today we've gone over misconceptions about when do you increase your prices and talked about how you will know when it is time. Then I talked you through the 4 questions I ask myself to sell myself on raising my prices. And again, I sell myself on things all the time. I am figuring out what things are worth all the time. I'm trying to figure that out. But then you want to sell yourself using those 4 questions: why your coaching is worth this, why your program is worth this, why there are hundreds of people that want your offer at the new price, and where they are. I want you to ask yourself those 4 questions enough that you are really confident and sell your offer to the next 3 to 5 clients before you raise your prices. And then I also want you to continue to sell yourself afterwards, even if there's just like the minor question of like, why my coaching is worth this. Just 5 reasons every day, just to again ingrain it in your subconscious. I never ever want you on a consultation call having an ounce of hesitation that your coaching is worth the price. Because again, your worth is invaluable, but we are selling a service here. And I want to make sure you feel like your service is invaluable. And for those of you who are listening to this podcast in real time, this is towards the end of the year. So there are 2 weeks left in the year. And I think a lot of people think that at this time of year, people are done, people aren't selling. And I did a podcast a couple weeks ago for you to batch out your marketing so you stay consistent. And I want to let you know that this week, within 24 hours, I bought not one, but 2 different coaching programs. 2 at the end of the year. It's a good time for me to buy things because it's going to be a tax deduction for me and it's going to make my 2024 taxes a little lower. And within that, I have been thinking about these things for a while. And both of the people, their marketing was speaking to the struggles that I'd had this year. And I was like, perfect. B, they also sent me direct messages. I had had one-on-one DMs with both of them, and I knew that they knew me personally, and I felt that level of trust. And then on the consult, they had clearly thought through these things. They had sold themselves on their offer. So they knew it was a no-brainer. It was a heck yes for me. There was no hesitation. I paid one of them I paid on the call because I was so certain of it. And the second one I paid within the hour. I just had to transfer some funds. But literally, I just bought that. And there are people that are ready to buy your offer too. So make sure that you are thinking about them. Selling with service, it's the most important thing for you to do. And I cannot wait to talk to you on the next episode of the Six Figure Systems podcast.